Hi, Jacqui. It's so good to see you, and I am really delighted you're in the Art Fest this year. You're one of 37 artists, and I'm an artist board member. My name's Helen Frederick, as you know, and I know your work, and I'm just thrilled to be able to talk to you. Are you in your studio this morning?
That's where I am, yes, in Kensington, Maryland.
Kensington. Wonderful. So, could you tell us a bit about your background and how any early formative experiences sort of led you to your image making? Is there something that triggered you to be an artist?
Sure, I'll say that art has always been a part of my life. I was interested from an early age, and I had incredible opportunities along the way to discover my own art journey and try different things. So I would say exposure to museums and even seeing a film about Leonardo da Vinci in the 6th grade was a huge inspiration for me. Plus, growing up, just doing a lot of making. You know, my mom taught me how to sew a skirt by hand when I was in the 2nd grade. You know, there were all these things as a maker that I was exposed to. Oil painting at age 11 or 12, taking adult education watercolor classes when I was 16, there was a program for high school students at Goucher College one summer. So I spent a couple of weeks, exploring everything from soldering silver jewelry to drawing and painting with artists from all around the state. And then that continued, through college, spending a semester in Italy studying the Renaissance art history and doing studio work there. And I would also say, besides all the exposure to art, and a great program in high school where we even made our own glazes and ceramics and had a raku firing at the end of the year. So art making was always something I had access to. So I was really lucky that way. And the other thing was we had a lot of freedom in those days to growing up. You know, you had the freedom to run around in the woods with your friends and be in nature without parental supervision all day long. Very different from how I raised my daughter. And so I would say that open-ended play, being in nature, that also had a big impact on my work.
I love this answer. It's wonderful and full. You grew up in Baltimore, I take it.
No, I actually grew up, well, I was in Massachusetts where I was born for a couple of years, and then in Long Island, New York for a few years, but we moved to Silver Spring, Maryland, and that's where I did most of my growing up.
Oh, that's where I am today.
Okay.
So where did you go to school, actually? Where did you study, and what professors, or was any of that very influential in your making decisions about your medium?
I think the open-ended nature, I think that what it was more than anything is to the different medium that I have explored is I have a design background. And so there's always the solution fits the problem solving, that kind of inclination. So when I started, I started with like a conventional studio art background. But as I developed my work, I think the work really responded to the conditions I was in. So for instance, I went through a difficult, really challenging time where there were a lot of people in my circle that were having serious struggles. And so I had to let go of a lot of my art making to sort of take on a caregiving role. And also to be able to provide for my family. So it took me away from art. And when I was able to come back to it, I feel like I chose things that fit what I needed to do. So for instance, I started creating large abstract paintings that that really the whole emphasis was on taking chaos and creating calm, creating harmony. And I really feel that what I was doing was going through a healing process myself and creating what I needed for myself. And then from there, once I was in a better place, I was able to create work that was really more focused on looking out and my response to the things around me. So I would say, like, one of the earlier works that I did in 3D, it was the materials, they were in response to what I was trying to convey. So for instance, when my daughter was a senior in high school, I was really consumed by the thoughts of her leaving the nest. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I created was a sculpture. I woke up in the middle of the night and I realized that the nest was the heart. And so I created a bodice that was like a nest made of grapevine twigs and wire. And as I was creating this, thinking about the nest and the heart and her leaving, I continued with the form until I had a full long dress, which was almost like a protective teepee. So it had to do with, the housing, the protection, that type of thing. And I called the piece Protect, Nurture, Release. So it was a very lacy, 3D piece, and the materials were driven by what I was trying to say.
I think that I always experienced the sensual in your work. And even if it goes between sculpture and your laser cut beautiful paintings that you're doing now, there's this interest in what objects or what maybe a dreamlike state sounds like from this experience affect you. Like sometimes you've used deer antlers. I know that you've.
Yes.
So that relates to your talking about being in the woods and play. But as you have aged and mature in your work, it seems like it's grown and developed into this, what you've just said is the healing category. So if you find your subject matter through healing, do you keep returning to those themes, or what are the things that you'll be showing at ArtFest that will touch upon them?
Sure. So at ArtFest, I will have some small 3D works, which are seed pod vessels, and I will have some printmaking, which some of it is nature inspired, and some of it relates to issues, concerns of the day. So for instance, even if it's something that doesn't impact me directly, I don't live in a neighborhood that's being gentrified, but that concerns me. So one of the pieces has to do with gentrification. Another piece relates to the Me Too movement. So I think that a lot of this has to do with my response to what's going around me. If it's not impacting me directly, I feel this connection. I mean, really one of my biggest inspirations, I would say right now, is the wisdom of First Nation peoples, in particular, their mindset of interconnectedness. So that is a theme that really drives a lot of what I work on. I think both in terms of the healing qualities of nature and the inspiration, but also I use nature as a metaphor often for bringing attention to things that may be difficult, but having a balance of beauty and hopefully evoking some hope. Because of course, without hope, we're paralyzed and can't work toward positive change.
So are you doing a lot of reading or research in that regard about Native Indigenous communities, or how do you relate that into the work?
Well, I wouldn't say, I don't consider myself to be like, an academic researcher, but in my reading, even like braiding sweetgrass was a real big inspiration. And so, yes, I do research, but not like I'm ready to write a scholarly paper on it, but that's the inspiration.
Reading something. Tell us something about what collections you're in, or any awards, or just notable things that you're very proud of in your career.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I'm proud of is a project called Project Dialogue. I was on the advisory committee working with Cornerstone Montgomery. They are the largest provider of mental health services in Montgomery County. They have a program called Studio Insight. It's for artists who are living with mental health disorders. And they had a partnership with the Ratner Museum. And so I was on that advisory board where we were deciding what the, how we would create this partnership and coming up with, the vision and the operating goals and coming up with systems to support that. And through the process of working with that group and supporting the artists who were living with the Studio Insight artists, I came up with an idea called Project Dialogue, where I invited artists from the community to come in and do artist talks with this group of artists. And so they would come in and show their work and give a little artist talk. And then the artists in the group would try on their style, and if they were inspired by the work. And that culminated in an exhibit at the Ratner Museum that included the work from the professional artists as well as the artists who were in the program. So that was a really exciting to see how the positive impact on both the artists in the program as well as the artists who were from the community. So
wonderful. I think our 10 minutes is up. I could talk to you much longer because you have such a rich, interactive picture of who you are. And I'm very thankful to have had this conversation with you, Jacqui. And I hope you really at ArtFest. Have a wonderful time.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Helen. I appreciate this.
Yes. See you later.
Bye.